Good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being patient with us here while we all get together. The following adequate notice of this April the 12th, 2012 meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting written notice and agenda of this meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building at 1000 Route 10, Whippany, Township of Hanover, and by hand delivering such and faxing such notice of the agenda to the following newspapers: the Hanover Eagle, Morris County's Daily Record, and the Star Ledger, by filing same with the Township Clerk. Can I have a roll call?
On roll call, Committeeman Schleifer.
Here.
Committeeman Faramasca.
Here.
Committeeman Bruno is away this evening. Committeeman Capola.
Here.
And Mayor Francioli.
Here.
4 members in attendance, sir.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, would you all please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. We have a very nice evening tonight of awards that we'd like to present, and we're going to do that immediately. These awards presented to Whippany Fire Company, both firefighters of the fire company, etc., have been well deserved through the storms of this past October, and we had as most have read in the newspapers, we had a really harrowing experience here with so many different episodes that took place, not just here in Hanover, but in other communities around, where our fire company and our public safety department and police have pitched in a total community of service affair. And in particular, we had 2 young men rescued from the Whippany River at the hands of our Whippany's fire company's swift water team. And I think, quite honestly, I underestimated it. I'd say they owed their lives to these gentlemen. It was a very heroic deed that was done at the risk of the lives of not just these gentlemen, but the young men themselves. And we're really honored tonight to be able to make some presentations tonight for these officers. And Joe, how do you like to proceed?
The first one.
Okay. We have a Distinguished Service Award. I'm sorry, George, you want to?
Yeah, I'd like to, before we begin,
I don't want to steal George's thunder. He's your public safety director.
let me just give briefly the accounts of these 3 awards, with 2 with the firefighters and 1 with one of our police officers. The swift water rescue resulting from Hurricane Irene. Here we had firefighter Ian Bell, firefighter Tom Rayback, plus 2 firefighters that helped out from the Booton Water Rescue Team. This rescue effort was a result of 2 young men who decided to do some water rafting on Eden Lane during Hurricane Irene. Unfortunately, they encountered more than what they expected and ended up trapped while hanging on to trees. Unfortunately, the water rescue team could not use a boat because of the access and conditions in the immediate vicinity of these 2 young men. And this is really where, these gentlemen really got to get a lot of credit. The task of wading into the raging water was extremely dangerous and tiring. Communicating between the team members proved difficult, as instructions had to be shouted at one another because of the deafening noise of the pounding white water. These 4 rescuers had to work in complete unison to achieve a safe traverse of nearly 150 feet of raging, debris-laden water. Need I say that these 2 young men were extremely relieved and forever thankful to these unsung heroes. I'm just doing a brief, I did get quite an extensive write-up, but I'm trying to just bring it down into a brief synopsis. The next one was the swift water rescue of a man on the roof of top of his car. Here again, firefighter Ian Bell, firefighter Tom Cobain, firefighter Robert Cobain Jr., firefighter Josh Mikowski, and firefighter Joseph Mikowski Jr. On the morning of August 28th, during Hurricane Irene, members of the Whippany Fire Department, who remained in the firehouse to keep pumps running, noticed a vehicle just west of the firehouse on Route 10 submerged in floodwater, and the driver standing on the roof of his vehicle with raging water surrounding it. Within minutes, the Whippany Fire Department Swiftwater team was dispatched and on the scene to begin forming a plan for the rescue. The plan was to take a rescue boat upstream and secure it to the pole, then have 2 members swim downstream with the current to the victim. The rescuers brought to the victim a life jacket as well as a life safety rope. Once the victim was safely secured into a life jacket by Ian Bell and Tom Cobain, firefighter Josh Mikowski and Robert Cobain Jr. stayed with the boat to pull the victim to safety with their ropes. All of the rescuers were now with the victim and were still in the raging river and in harm's way with debris floating all over the river. They managed to make their way to the entrance of a nearest building on Route 10, which again was surrounded by raging water. This gave them a brief moment to further assess the situation as to why their motor stalled. Quickly, they learned that the rope was wrapped around the propeller, which they immediately freed and again proceeded downstream to safety. While almost to safety, unfortunately the motor stalled again, which put everyone in danger because they entered an area that had strong cross current. It was then that firefighter Joseph Mikowski Jr. was standing by with a rope throw bag, which he only had one shot to do it, which he successfully tossed to the boat. With the assistance of the firefighters in the area, they pulled the boat with the rescuers and victim to safety. Again, we're just very fortunate to have these people here. Then we have one of our patrolmen, Dominic Kaiser, rescuing a man from his vehicle. With Patrolman Dominic Kaiser as well as New Jersey State Trooper James Hamill. On September 7, 2011, Patrolman Dominic Kaiser responded to Interstate 287 South at the exit ramp of Route 10 West on a report of a vehicle that had driven into the Whippany River. The vehicle was sinking and the driver not moving. Patrolman Kaiser removed his duty belt and went into the river to rescue the driver. It was then that they observed a lone male not acting right. He was not answering any questions and was gripping the steering wheel with both hands. Patrolman Kaiser at the time was then assisted by State Trooper James Hamill, who was able to pry the victim's hands from the steering wheel. As the vehicle continued to fill with water, the officers observed syringes and a blood sugar kit floating in the vehicle, indicating that perhaps the driver may be suffering from a diabetic emergency. The water had now risen to the victim's chest, so the officers worked as a team, removed him through the front passenger door, and carried him to the river's edge. They were then met by Patrolman Mark Ligger, I think I got that right, and another state trooper who assisted in carrying the driver to a safe location where he was then turned over to the care of the Cedar Knolls Fire Department. It goes without saying that we as a township are extremely fortunate to have folks like this who provide the assistance to us residents. You know, many times we take it for granted until something like this happens. And I'm truly proud, as I know the rest of the committee is, very pleased that, you know, we have these folks who've done so much for the township. And I look forward to the 200 Club presentation also. But again, on behalf of the Township Committee, and I'm sure the mayor and everyone else, we really say thank you from the bottom of our hearts to each and every one of you for what the dangers you take place every single day. We really appreciate your efforts. Thank you. And God bless
I think we echo George's comments, really, each and every single one of us. Most of us had opportunities to visit the fire companies during those storms, and it was just an incredible day or days that went by from those that helped our sister communities as far as Denville was concerned, and the devastation they had up there, to the things that happened down here in Whippany with the Whippany River, and the life-saving incidents of these 2 young men. You guys did an absolutely outrageously terrific job, and again, as George says, we can't as a community thank you enough, and this is a small token of that appreciation that we'll give you tonight. George, you want to assist me with this?
Okay, the first set of presentations, Lieutenant Robert F. Cobain Jr., Firefighter Thomas G. Cobain,
Okay.
firefighter Josephine Mikowski Jr., firefighter EMT Fire Inspector Ian R. Bell, and firefighter EMT Fire Inspector Josh J. Mikowski.
Take these.
Head over to the wall, guys. That's where we take their picture.
Yeah.
You always get the picture on the wall. I was going to make movies.
Congratulations, well done, thank you.
Second presentation
Thank you
is
so
to
much. Well done.
Assistant Chief Thomas Ramiak,
Well done.
and also firefighter EMT Fire Inspector Ian Bell.
He's a very busy guy. We're going to take a movie there. Yeah, congratulations.
And third Distinguished
Once again,
Service
well
Award
done.
to Police Officer Dominic J. Kaiser.
Very good.
Bless you guys.
Good. I always want to take more than one.
Jim, I'll email you one more.
Yeah.
These are quite some stories, I'll tell you, of rescue, and the reality of it all is just amazing. And you gentlemen are terrific. I just hope we never see the likes of it again for a long time, that's for sure. Incredible. Okay. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to open the meeting to the public. Gentlemen, a motion to open?
So moved. Second?
Moved and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open to the public. Anyone who would like to address the Township Committee at this time, bye-bye. I do so from the podium.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take care, Rob.
Thanks a lot. Anyone who'd like to address the committee at this time could do so from the podium, giving us your name and address for the record. What'd you do, your hair?
Congratulations.
Very good.
How are you, Steve?
I'll just give him a minute.
I'll give him a second.
Yeah.
Somebody ought to write a book on that rescue, isn't that something? Amazing.
That swift water stuff is scary. When that water's
Fast
raging.
water? When I got down to the department that night, I heard the story of that.
Oh,
You
There's
know,
no margin for error, there's no margin
No.
with that. It's like,
dead.
Incredible.
It's deadly
Guys are
stuff.
just incredible. I see nobody from the floor. I'd like to address the Township Committee. A motion to close.
Oh,
wait,
excuse
Ron.
me.
Up.
Real-
Sorry. I apologize. Go right ahead.
My name is Lucy Tisher, and I'm on Deerfield Road in Whippany. And I was here about 2 weeks ago talking about the New Jersey Residential Foreclosure Transformation Act. And at the time, I think you were going to send a letter stating your concerns with this new legislation that's going through Trenton. And I'm just checking on whether that letter was written, and if it was written, could I get a copy of it?
In fact, it was. And that letter went out to our state senator and Senator Cody. And by the way, you're certainly entitled to a copy of that letter if you'd like to have it. The administrator can provide you with that. Certainly glad to provide you with that. But we did take a very strong stand on that, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for coming out.
Ma'am, if you give Mrs. Luger your full name and address, we'll mail you a copy.
Thank you.
Make it even easier for you. Thank you, Lucy. Anyone else from the public like to be heard at this time? Seeing none, hearing none. Motion to close.
So moved. Second.
Moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. We have two letters, one from the Regional Board of Education and the second from the local school district. The first is from the Administrator Board Secretary from the Hanover Park Regional High School District, advising us of the schedule for the drawdown of tax levy monies during fiscal year 2012-13 to the school district. Total payments between July 19, 2012 through June 10, 2013 will be a monthly installment of $884,707.73. Total amount due in 2012, $5,308, $246.41. And for the first 6 months of 2013, $5,308,246.40. May we have a motion for approval on the certification of the drawdown of tax levy monies?
So moved.
So moved by Mr.
Second.
Polis, seconded by Mr. Faramasca. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Now we have a request from the Hanover Township School District for the drawdown of tax monies. The amount of this request is $1,772,106. May we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Schleifer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Faramasca. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So approved. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the following department reports available for public inspection. They include the report of the Chief of Police on all activities conducted by the Police Department during the month of March. We have a report dated April the 11th, 2012, from the Township's Property Maintenance Officer, reporting on all of her activities dealing with property maintenance and zoning violations. The Superintendent of the Department of Public Works, Buildings and Grounds, and Park Maintenance has submitted 2 reports for all programs and projects conducted by the department during the month of March 2012. And finally, the Construction Code official has provided his report of all certificates of occupancy and building permits issued during the month of March 2012. Once again, they are available for public inspection. As we continue, ladies and gentlemen, the next order of business deals with the public hearing and consideration of adoption of the 2012 current fund budget. We'll note for the record that the summary, the synopsis of the budget appeared in full in the Thursday, March 15th issue of the Daily Record. The Township's Chief Municipal Finance Officer filed the annual financial statement for 2011 and the 2011 debt statement, the annual debt statement with the Division of Local Government Services. Both those statements were approved by the state of New Jersey. We'll also note for the record that the Division of Local Government Services was required to review the Township's proposed 2012 budget, and they advised the Chief Municipal Finance Officer yesterday that the Township Committee can now proceed to conduct the public hearing on the budget this evening. Finally, ordinance number 8-12, which authorized a 1% increase in the appropriation limit of the budget in order to increase our cap banking was submitted upon introduction and upon adoption to the Director of the Division of Local Government Services back in March, and also upon introduction and adoption. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, may we have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
So
Second.
moved by Mr. Schleifer, seconded by Mr. Capola. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Fermaski.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Is there anyone in chambers wishing to be heard concerning the 2012 current fund budget? And we'll note for the record what that budget amount is. Total budget amount for 2012, total general appropriations, $22,540,338.54. Is there anyone wishing to be heard at this time? Hearing none, seeing none, may we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Schleifer,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Capola. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Fermaski.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Now on adoption, be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hanover in the County of Morrison, State of New Jersey, that the 2012 local municipal budget be adopted as heretofore set forth. May we now have a motion on adoption?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Schleifer,
Second.
second by Mr. Capola. On roll call for adoption, Mr. Schleifer,
Aye.
Mr. Fermaska,
Aye.
Mr. Capola,
Aye.
and Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So adopted, ladies and gentlemen. It's for them.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, as we continue, ladies and gentlemen, on page 2 of your agenda, we have ordinances. We do have one ordinance for public hearing and consideration of adoption, and there are 2 ordinances for introduction this evening that do not appear on your agenda. First ordinance for public hearing this evening is docketed as ordinance number 9-12. This authorizes improvements at the Bee Meadow Swimming Pool facility. The 2 projects are as follows: repair to the perimeter edge deck of the pool, and 2, the re-roofing of the Bee Meadow Pool maintenance building. And this ordinance appropriates the sum of $115,000 for the financing of both projects through the Swimming Pool Enterprise Fund, which is a separate and distinct fund from the current fund budget and is not raised through municipal taxes, but by membership fees. And this money is in the capital account 2012 and all prior years, and that is $115,000 for the appropriation to perform the 2 projects. We have the proof of publication that the ordinance and the notice of introduction appeared in full in the March 15th issue of the Daily Record. At this time, may we have a motion to convene the public hearing?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Fermaska and Mr. Capola. On roll call for public hearing, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Fermaska.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Is there anyone present wishing to be heard concerning ordinance number 9-12? Hearing none, seeing none, may we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Fermaska.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schleifer and Mr. Capola in unison. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Fermaska.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, on adoption, be it resolved that an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Hanover, authorizing the following improvements at the Bee Meadow Swimming Pool facility. 1, repair to the perimeter edge deck of the pool, and 2, re-roofing of the Bee Meadow Pool maintenance building, and further appropriating the sum of $115,000 for the financing of both projects through the Swimming Pool Enterprise Fund, capital account of 2012 and all prior years, be passed on final reading, and that a notice of the final passage of the ordinance be published in the April 19th issue of the Daily Record. May we now have a motion on adoption?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Schleifer.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ferramaska. On adoption, roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So adopted. Signing begins.
Just getting ready for your resolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, ordinance number 10-12. Ordinance 10-12 is an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Hanover, regulating signage in the public rights of way and amending Chapter 248 of the Code of the Township, entitled Streets and Sidewalks, by establishing a new Article 6 entitled Signs. And this would prohibit any type of signage in any county, state, or local right-of-way that would be an obstruction to the public right-of-way, and it's illegal to have them in the right-of-way. This ordinance will be further considered for public hearing and final adoption on the 26th of April at 8:30 p.m. here in the main meeting room of the municipal building. And at that time, any citizen wishing to be heard will be given the opportunity to speak. It is further resolved that the business administrator township clerk is authorized and directed to advertise the ordinance in full with the notice of introduction in the Morris County Daily Record. May we now have a motion on introduction?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Ferramaska, seconded by Mr. Capola. On roll call for introduction, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So introduced. Ordinance 11-12. This is an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Hanover, amending and supplementing Section 1 of Ordinance Number 31-11, the Salary Ordinance, and Chapter 61 of the Code of the Township, entitled Salaries and Compensation, Personnel Policies, with the inclusion of a new position entitled Human Resource Specialist and associated rate of compensation. This would be a new part-time position that would assist the business administrator with personnel issues. This ordinance is to be further considered for public hearing on the evening of April 26th at 8:30 p.m. here in the main meeting room of the municipal building. And at that time, any person wishing to be heard will be given the opportunity to speak before the governing body. It is further resolved that the ordinance and the notice of introduction will appear in full in the Morris County Daily Record in accordance with law. May we now have a motion on introduction?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Capola.
Second.
Second by Mr. Francioli. On roll call for introduction, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Capola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So introduced. Ladies and gentlemen, now as we continue with the agenda, we have resolutions. We have one additional resolution that was discussed in personnel work session. I'll read that title into the record. And that is a resolution of the Township Committee authorizing the probationary employment of Althea Lavatola as a part-time clerk in the general office, effective Tuesday, April 24th, and establishing her compensation at $14.42 per hour under Section 8, Item 3, as set forth in Salary Ordinance Number 31-11. This is a conditional offer of employment subject to Ms. Lavatola receiving a satisfactory medical examination, negative drug test, and negative criminal history information check. This is not a new position. It is a replacement position on the unfortunate death of Marie Fantasia on February 3rd, 2012. Are there any questions concerning any of the resolutions that are listed on the consent agenda?
None?
Hearing none, may we have a motion to approve the resolutions as a consent agenda?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Capola, seconded by Mr. Ferramaska. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Pola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Mr. Francioli gets to sign all of these.
What a lucky guy. Lucky guy.
Next item, ladies and gentlemen, payment of bills. Total amount, $4,135,822.32. May we have a motion to pay our bills?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Schleifer.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Faramaska. Thank you. On roll call, Mr. Schleifer.
Aye.
Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Pola.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So approved. Ladies and gentlemen,
No.
that clears the agenda of the Business Administrator Township Clerk, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Very good. Okay. Gentlemen, at this time, is there any other business from the Township Committee?
Yeah, just a couple of reminders that, on the 15th of this month, there will be, well, actually, it's gonna be Sunday, a breakfast, a fundraiser over at, the community center by the Seton Old Fire Department. That same day, in the afternoon, there's gonna be, clarinets a la mode, I guess, at community center, 3 o'clock. That's a show. Everyone's invited to attend. Also, on the 17th of this month, we do have a Board of Education election. We're only one of 9 districts right now that opt to have it in April. And on the 21st of this month, we also have Little League Opening Day. And I understand we also have shredding of personal papers over at Employment Horizon. And on May 1st, we will have the joint meeting with both fire districts and a consultant over at Memorial Junior School to go over the report for combining both fire districts. So that'll be 7:30 on May 1st over at Memorial Junior School. I also received a letter from the Chief of Police for Morris Township, Chief Gallagher, thanking him and his staff for helping out when we had the Vice President in town. I guess, besides his security staff, he also required some help from the local police as well as our township. And lastly, I want to thank Tom Quirk, our OEM director, Chief Gallagher and his staff, Chief Cartwright and Chief Davidson from the Whippany and Seton Old Fire Department, Superintendent Brian Ferran and his staff, Jerry Mazura, Sarah, our engineering group and his staff, Sean Donnelly, Building Department, and our CFO, Silvio Esposito. Their combined efforts were instrumental with the township receiving a reimbursement from FEMA of $81,650.99. They really did a great job, and we can't thank them enough for all the work that everyone has done. We are very fortunate in this town to have such dedicated individuals.
Thank you, George. Is there anyone else from the committee who'd like to be heard?
Just a couple short comments. We
Yes,
adopted the
pro senior,
budget,
or-
so now we can.
I thought you were gonna-
Yeah, he's good. Congratulations, we adopted the budget, and now we can start moving forward and getting some of this work done for the year. We get off our temporary budget and start getting our work done.
Yep.
And I'm just so happy we're gonna get this pool finally fixed. We adopted that tonight, and we should have that open in time for its regular schedule opening, so.
On Memorial Day, yeah.
Just a couple of, an engineering thing, we've completed the Whippany River cleanup, and they did an outstanding job of it. To expand on that, on the 18th, the administrator and I and some people from the Whippany Watershed Engineering Department and others are going to take a walk up and see if there's any other projects that need to be done on it. So it's not going to end there, and we had discussions on and possibly doing pieces of it over the different years, and maybe looking into whatever funding might be available to clean up our portion of the Whippany River in Hanover Township. So I think it was a successful project that we got done just in the nick of time, because I think from now on you can't go in the waters because of the fish spawning and all the other
Yep.
rules are involved.
Yep.
And congratulate our engineering department for getting all the, and our administrator for all the hard work to get our DE permit processing done in a very quick way. So, I haven't seen the spring rains come, but I'm still waiting. But if they do, I'm sure that's going to help us in the flooding.
As long as they're not going to come on the volume that we had that one October.
Yeah.
God, my God. But no, they did a fantastic job, Ken, you're right. And the acted expeditiously, the town acted expeditiously, and thank you, Ken, thank everyone involved there. And cleaning out, snaring out the trees and debris that were going to cause additional problems had we had any other rain. Last thing in the world we needed downstream there, along the lowlands from First Presbyterian Church down through the fire company is an additional flooding, you know.
Yeah.
Dispose of sheetrock again for the third time in a year, I think. So thank you for all that work. You guys did a good job on that. Very good. John?
Yes, from a planning standpoint, pleased to report some progress on the Hanover corridor. What is called as the Burlex property, which is 27 acres located on the corner of Ridgedale Avenue and Hanover. That property has been vacant for nearly 20 years now. The good news is initial prep work is being done. It's now underway with grading and massive grading to the tune of maybe 7 feet average grading at some levels. Although no one likes to see the removal of any trees prematurely to development, the massive grading effort, again requiring 7 feet in some places, would lead to destruction of the root lines of the trees, of the tree rootstock, and lead eventually to their loss. The developer has come in, filed, and has agreed to pay the town the required tree fees to remove this stock so that we could use this money for future plantings. Second element from a planning standpoint is there's going to be a public hearing on April 24th. This will be the 10th hearing of its type. It dates back to September 2011, and the case that the planning board is hearing is something called Hanover and Horse Hill Development, LLC. They're seeking development of a mixed retail use shopping center to include a proposed ShopRite store on the corner of Hanover Avenue and Horse Hill Road. Members of the public are welcome to attend this. It's April 24th at 7:30. From an Economic Development Advisory Committee standpoint, they are holding a special session. This will be the third special session EDAC will hold, and this is to invite brokers and developers to our township for roundtable discussions. It will be held here on May the 4th from 8 o'clock to 9:30. These meetings are very, very beneficial to our town. It brings in contact key constituencies with the key groups that are trying to see if they can market them. So it's been very beneficial in the past. We look forward to a good turnout. Switching gears a little bit, Arbor Day, from an environmental standpoint. Arbor Day will be celebrated in Hanover Township throughout the month of April with special ceremonies at each school. The Arbor Day ceremony itself will be on April 27th at 11 a.m. at the Salem Drive School. So if you can come out to attend that, it's something very special on the 27th at 11 a.m. And pinch hitting for my esteemed colleague, Mr. Bruno, this evening. He has a special announcement, and his special announcement goes out to all high school seniors. And this is a very good program. This program is entitled Self-Defense Awareness and Training Program. This is a special program that's being offered to help people learn how to defend themselves, especially when they're moving out of their home potentially, or moving on to college years. It's going to be held on Thursday night, starting April 19th at 7:45 at the Recreational Center. It will be a 6-week program. The cost is only $5 per class, and it's sponsored in conjunction by Hanover Township Substance Awareness Council and the Hanover Township Recreation, along with Jersey Judo Karate Academy. Special recognition goes out to Ace Gallagher on this in bringing this to the township. This will be a tremendous service to our high school seniors. That concludes my report. And
John.
Mr. Bruno's report.
Very good. John, thank you very much. Thank you all the gentlemen on the committee. John, Committeeman Faramosca, Deputy Mayor Faramosca, brought up a subject that I'm glad he did in more detail on the property that we're all seeing in town that's underway now. That's the Burlex property, Ridgedale Avenue and Hanover Avenue. That's a 40-acre piece of land. That property from Ridgedale Avenue up to American Way most recently was rezoned as a corridor zone for retail. It has been retail to some degree in the past, but now the zoning has been created to specifically call for 10-acre zoning and retail. What you see going on now, as was described to you, was a landfill that's going in through there, earth being brought in, sacrificing quite a bit of trees. While, you know, we're not pleased when we see that, we are pleased with the fact that that corner that has been for 20 years demise, when Berlex is left, we'll finally see some development and it's very encouraging to our Economic Development Committee, and it certainly meets and qualifies with their mission. I will also say that plans for that development will be forthcoming before the Planning Board very shortly. And for those of us who are concerned with the landscape, for those of us who are concerned with the amount of trees that have been removed, even though they've been paid for, there will be a landscape detail that accompanies whatever new development is planned there, and which means reforestation and shrubbery, et cetera. Certainly, I'm not going to defend it to the degree of removing any mature tree, but once again, the compromises of finally seeing that corner developed, you know, and loss of some tree stock or something we have to deal with. But did want to punctuate, you know, underscore what that is. There's a great deal of interest in the community on what's going on. Committeeman Faramosco also brought out the ongoing case before us with the ShopRite application. That's Horse Hill Road and Hanover Avenue. That'll be going into its 12th hearing date, I think,
10th.
11th or 12th. I have to tell you, this is a sad comment. It truly is. This is a case before the Planning Board that under any other circumstances might be adjudicated and approved or not approved for a full hearing within several hearings. This is going into its 12th, and there is no end to what we see on this ongoing objection from the objector on this matter. And they're certainly entitled to due process, and they will have due process. I just have to make my own personal feelings felt that evening after evening, you're taking up the times of a devoted planning board members to sit through arguments, incredibly minute arguments in order to prolong the hearing, prolong the situation in order to make it difficult for the applicant, you know, to win an approval or not. So I only wish there was some way within the zoning laws or laws of the state that we could deal with a matter like this, but it looks like this can go on for quite a bit longer. So I regret to have to inform you on that. Thank you. Any other comment from the committee? None. Hearing none. I'd like to open to the public one more time. Motion to open?
So moved.
And second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, the floor is open. If you'd like to address any one of us on the committee, please do so from the podium, giving us your name and address for the record.
Tom Russamano, Farview Avenue, Cedar Knolls. I don't want to nitpick. You know, when you're talking $22 million budget, 100,000 here, 100,000 there doesn't mean anything. But when you use the term that Silvio used, October, November 2010, I forget which meeting, bare bones spending. Now 100,000, 200,000 means a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When you spend, you know, I don't keep track of what you spend. I don't keep track of what you do. I don't know the inner workings of what goes on in that back room there. But bare bones spending means no spending, frivolous spending, or any type of spending. Now I see there's 20,000 for Township Day. I can account for 100, 150,000 without even looking for it that is being spent by the committee up here. That is not bare bones spending. Bare bones spending is no spending at all, especially since you laid off people, cut people back. As you know, my wife was cut back, one of them. And if you're going to cut these people back and lay them off, don't be spending money, bare bones spending. And I know you need, Mr. Giorgio, I know you need help with an HR person, but why didn't you need it last year, year before that, year before that? And why?
For a long time, Mr.
Why now, though? It's a bad time for it. That's, you know.
Now because it becomes more and more difficult to to adjudicate a lot of the problems that come before us. And the need for human resource specialists has been on the horizon for at least 10 years.
Yeah,
Long time.
Yeah.
And it would help, hopefully, can't guarantee it, but to save a lot of taxpayer money when it comes to litigation and legal expenses.
I'm sure it would. It's just the timing of it, I think, is wrong. I mean,
Sometimes you can't help the time.
yeah, 2 years ago, nobody would even pay attention to it. But this spending is, let's go to bare bones spending, like Silvio says. Let's stop spending. Let's stop spending 20,000, throwing 20,000 here and 20,000, even though you may need it for things that you're talking about. But bare bones means bare bones. So, thank you.
You.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
It's still a difficult time for all of us and for Hanover Township. And while I appreciate Mr. Rossamano's comments, and I really do, and I know that our financial officer, Silvio Esposito, in his expression of bare bones spending, just tried to be clear about the fact that the Township Committee had scrutinized line for line of their budget this year. We are trying, and we will continue to try, where necessary, where it's required, to replace personnel as we need them. I don't think anyone here during the times that we had to go through a very difficult layoff period and enjoyed the moment at all. Certainly not here, certainly not the people that this affected in these economic times. It was a very difficult thing to do. We are working aggressively toward trying to put back in place where we do need those people, and we're doing it on a part-time basis sometimes, where the dollars are available. When we talk about this HR person, we've been looking at this position, as the administrator said, for some 10 years. This person in the operation of their job would be involved in both policy within our employee policy statements, making determinations where insurances are concerned, where other conflicting issues of personnel are concerned, a job that's now being done by the administrative office. The administrator really, if this were a corporation, the administrator would be the CEO, and he would be insulated from having to do that and spending the time doing that. But a person qualified to do that in the long run will, use the expression, earn their keep plus. Doesn't answer your question as to what, the bare bones of this are, but I would like to think, as the rest of the Township Committee does, that Hanover has gone through a dark time where we bumped along the bottom economically here. I do see a light through the tunnel. I see some very wonderful things for Hanover Township in the not-too-distant future. We're working our way out with good ratables, still in the planning stages, a great many of them. But they're all good brand ratables, and our township still proudly can say that we're one of the few communities in Morris Township that still has no bonded debt. We want to remain that way. It's kept us solvent along the way, not to say the least of cost us some personnel in keeping that solvent as well. But again, I think it's everyone's wish here on this Township Committee, if possible, when possible, to reevaluate and evaluate the jobs that we lost with an eye toward returning those peoples to services that the township can use. And I think we'll keep that in focus, really do. Thank you. Anything else from the public at this time? Hearing none, seeing none. Motion to close.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Motion for adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, seconded? Committee's adjourned. Thank you.
You.
Thank you all.
I'll send it to you, but you can't see it. Take this one, but I will send it to you tomorrow.
Maple syrup.
Okay?
Oh, man.